Development, 39 manifesto promises, 20 promises accounted for, smuggled into 17 unaccounted for. They hope that we shall all forget, but we will not forget. Tourism, culture, and creative arts, 22 manifesto promises. They account for only 13. They have omitted 9. Trade and industry, 58 promises we have counted. And all these 58 promises, we provide you with page numbers so you can carry out your independent verification. We are not just making claims. 38 accounted for, 20 have not been accounted for. The government will wish we forget, but we are not forgetting. Youth and sports, 20 manifesto promises, 14 accounted for, 6 have not been accounted for. The overall summary, therefore, is that 631 promises in the MPP manifesto. We have provided page numbers to every one of them. And you will notice as we go along this presentation that every one of them, there is a page number. So we are not in the business of smuggling promises as they did. So when you compare the 631 to 388, and you take out the smuggled promises, you notice that 235 promises, as many as 235. If you look at the earlier manifestos, and we did content analysis of the earlier manifestos, there were some manifestos that did not even have up to 235 promises. You know, this is a huge number, 235 promises. Even one promise to the Ghanaian people is a very, very important one. It's a sacred duty that it behoves on you to deliver on. So, ladies and gentlemen, the overall summary will shock you. It will shock you. Now, this is where we talk about the actual delivery. Actual delivery. So we have moved from what the promises they remember and hope that we will, forget the rest. Now we are talking about actual delivery. So this is the overall summary, the sectorial analysis. We have discovered, ladies and gentlemen, that the 631 promises that we listed, after thorough analysis, combing through documents, what they have told us in Parliament, either through the budget, either through the state of the message on the state of the nation, either through question time in Parliament, or at the committees, when we have summoned ministers to appear before us to answer to their mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, it will shock you to realize that only 86 out of these 631 promises have been delivered. So the percentage achieved is 14%. 14%, not 78%. And we shall prove it. In a few minutes, you will know that we are not joking at all. Agriculture, out of the 74 promises I told you earlier, only 13 have been delivered. And in subsequent slides, we shall give you a detailed breakdown. We are not just coming to give you numbers, do some quantitative analysis and leave here. No. We will give you the details. The details. Only 18% in terms of the percentage achieved in the agri sector. Chieftaincy and culture. Chieftaincy and culture. My own good uncle from the Volta region, if we were in another jurisdiction, he will be resigning this afternoon. The 7 promises they made, zero achieved at chieftaincy. And there are a number of 0 achieving ministries. And I wonder what the ministers, their deputies, are doing. Economy, 45 promises, only 12 have been delivered. So 27 percentage point achievement. Under education, 38 promises, only 7 delivered, 18%. Energy, 45 to 8, only 8 out of the 45 promises delivered, so 18%. Foreign affairs, you have a situation where the 13 promises made, 5 delivered, so 38%. That's the best performing ministry. And it's not because I'm a ranking member in that sector. You do know that I have not been one of their best friends. Under governance, 18 promises made, only 2 delivered, 11% not delivered. Growing Together, 25 promises made, only 6 delivered. And we have been very generous, as you notice. When we get into the detail, you'll be wondering why we even gave them some deliveries, because they are not even there. They've not even done 15%. But we were quite charitable because we didn't want to be too hard on people who are really just not performing. They're so abysmal that you just have to try and be considerate. The health sector, 41 promises, only 3 delivered. So only 7 percentage point achievement. If you look at the infrastructure sector, 82 promises, 7 delivered, so only 9% in terms of actual delivery. Lands and natural resources, only 1 delivered out of the 39 promises, 3%. Local government, no, that's another 0 performing ministry. Local government, 0%. We struggle so hard to find just one thing that we could give my own good auntie Hajia Alima, but hard as we tried, she could not leave the 0 percentage point. Science and technology, Professor Frimpong Boateng, who has still not found his excavators, delivered only one promise out of the 17. And no country can really develop without science and technology. That's very, very important, science and technology. And yet, 17% delivery. Social development, the 39 promises, only 7 delivered, so 18%. Tourism, culture, and creative arts, 22 promises, only 2 delivered, so 9%. Trade and industry, 58 promises, only 6 delivered, 10%. Youth and sports, no wonder. 20 promises delivered, 20 promises made. The delivery is 0%. That's the third. There are 3 0% ministries. That's the third one. Youth and sports. No wonder there's so much agitation amongst the young people. Sports is in total disaster in our country at the moment. 0%. So the overall summary, only 86 of their promises out of the 631 have been delivered. 14% is the cumulative average. 14%, ladies and gentlemen. Only 14% achieved. And I'm not aware of any academic institution, having served as Deputy Minister of Education, where you can escape the dreaded F grade, which is fail, with 14%. With 14%. I'm not aware. So the NDC scorecard is that we contend very strongly that the 78% performance put out by the Akufo-Addo government is nothing but a scam. The actual delivery is 14%, which is an F. So this is a very important slide that you want to take note of. When we go on in the details, you will see how horrendous the performance of this government has been. No wonder on social media you notice that the hashtag Kick Nana Out has been trending for a very, very long time. That hashtag continues to trend on social media. Kick Nana Out. When we concluded this work, we then understood. We then saw how come there is so much disillusionment. How come people are so despondent? And you see, it is not our wish. We in the NDC really will wish, because Ghana is the only country we have, we will wish that our opponents perform when they are in government, so that we will be challenged to think harder and perform better when we get the opportunity. So it becomes a positive competition to the top, but not a competition to the bottom. And when this country, you are given 4 good years of the destiny of the people, and all you can do is 14%. That's all you can do. 14%. And even this, we have been so generous. You score an F. And you don't even have the courage to admit it, apologize for it, and try to see how you make amends. But you think that you can lie your way through by understating the number of promises that you make. And there's the level of intellectual dishonesty you will be finding out as we go on with this presentation. So, kindly remember those important figures. 14% delivery, overall delivery. Now we come to the detailed sectoral analysis. Very detailed sectoral analysis. But I have been speaking for a while. So let's hear from the Honorable Agric Minister, who is touted by the MPP as the best Agric Minister this country has ever had. Let's hear him.
Only 4 years ago, a bunch of plantain in Accra, you have to spend 40 Ghana cedis. Now 3, 4 cities, and I repeat, 3, 4, 5 cities, you can get a bunch of plantain. It shows you clearly that we have come and reduced prices of food, even in the major cities like Accra, where if because of the substantial reduction in prices in the markets, most families who could not afford 1 meal a day can now afford 3 meals a day because food is so cheap.
Oh, I know Cressa. If say by random say a month of April, by May June never from Abba. It is said about any bond I was so Accra. You time I Boba from San. Aha. I just said we go say a Yapona 11 by the matter in 6. By this August September. Ebia statement by say ya be 3 for 20.
Last year, na body ebu ya na cry drone kasia ebu ho 20 Ghana 30 Ghana na se sia body ho ayede ka ya ntosa no 40 Ghana me di dro kasia ni nyina age 45 isan ebu ho a onunum 10 cedi tani o kanu na nyesa.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard the Agric Minister, you heard the industry people, and I told you that this is an exercise that really is the people's exercise. We've gone to the ground, we are listening to those who these policies affect. Manifestos are about livelihoods, it's about the people. So you have to hear from the people. It's not what the politicians are saying. And you heard what the market women who really hold this economy, what they had to say about the Agric Minister. So in the Agric sector, 74 promises made. Only 13 promises out of the 74 promises have been delivered. That gives you a percentage delivery of 18%. So 82% of the promises in the Agric sector have not been met. And you shouldn't be surprised that you see the market woman saying that the Agric Minister is totally out of touch. So this is what we have done. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to the NDC's work. We are not just here to huff and puff, just blow hot air. No, it's an empirical exercise. We respect for the data. So you notice from the left side, we list the promises. We do this all the way from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to the 631st promise. And then please come to this section. This column is very important. We provide the page numbers. Every single promise, we provide the page numbers. I told you that we have uploaded this presentation at www.mppfailedpromises.com. You can check. We have also uploaded the MPP Manifesto itself, the soft copy. So you have the two presentations. You can compare and contrast at the website now. All of you here will receive a pack from us, hard copy of the presentation. You would also have the MPP Manifesto, so you can do your own comparison. The media, please fact check us. We have nothing to hide. So the status of every promise is also provided. Ladies and gentlemen, we provide every status so you can see for yourself. Let's take the Agric sector content by content. Promise 1, the MPP will modernize agriculture. The status is failed. Agriculture has not been modernized. Or read all the reports. Read all the reports, World Bank reports. We live in Ghana. I come from an agriculture-led constituency. It's what it is. Number 2, the MPP will improve agriculture production efficiency. Failed. MPP will achieve food security. Failed. Not too long ago, we were discussing in Parliament why we should be importing maize. The MPP will improve profitability for farmers. Failed. significantly increase agricultural productivity, failed. The MPP will pursue a value addition strategy, failed. We are still waiting for that strategy. We've been asking in Parliament, let's have the strategy, bring the policy. Nothing has been brought. The MPP will rapidly ramp up agro-processing. It's failed. Agro-processing is hinged on one district, one factory. And you know that just remains a slogan. Developing new and stable markets for our products, failed. You see that promise at 49. District assemblies and traditional authorities will be assigned specific roles in agricultural development. Just to cross-check, this morning I called my chiefs to find out, have you been assigned your specific role in the agricultural development policy of the government? They are still waiting for the phone call, or however that will be done. So that's also failed. The MPP will adopt policies specifically targeted at supporting women in agriculture. I'm happy that many women are here. I know some of you are in agriculture, you are entrepreneurs. It's failed. And what is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you go through Dr. Baumia's presentation, he himself does not admit that these promises have been delivered, except that what he does is to create a very strange concept known as delivering. So when they haven't delivered, they say, oh, we are delivering, whatever that means. You have been delivering for 42 months and over. We just have some 5 months to go, and you say that you are delivering. We will later on denounce and debunk that strange delivering theory very soon. Promise number 11, the MPP will ensure that there are improved seeds and fertilizers. We did some work on that, and our great committee said that they've done some work, so we should give it to them. So that is delivered. Ensure that farming inputs are readily available within farming communities at affordable prices. Failed. Support private certified seed growers to increase substantially the supply of improved seeds to farmers. That also, we score them delivered. The other delivered we score them is that we will begin immediate discussions with the government of Burkina Faso for a more controlled spillage of the dam to prevent the flooding that takes place. That one was just a phone call, so it's easy to do. We did our checks, and Burkina Faso has been called. So we delivered, we scored them delivered on that one. But apart from that, everything else is failed. Providing a mechanism to capture water released by the annual spillage at the Bagre Dam, failed. Focusing on developing irrigation schemes in the Afram Plains and the Northern Savannah, failed. Not a single irrigation scheme. As a matter of urgency, listen to their own words, as a matter of urgency, promise number 16, as a matter of urgency, rehabilitating existing public irrigation schemes, including the abandoned via irrigation scheme. As a matter of urgency, and yet they put this promise under delivery, that we will deliver later. Meanwhile, more than 42 months. It is the folks on the streets who say that agrobeso are not every anopa. These are a lot of the things we hear from our folks on the streets. And you can't tell us after 42 months, when you yourself use the word as a matter of urgency, just one, the irrigation project, matter of urgency. Nothing has been done in that regard. Here, before I move on from this slide, promise number 20, facilitating the provision of community-owned and managed small-scale irrigation facilities across the country, especially in northern Ghana, through the policy of one village, one dam. Ladies and gentlemen, not too long ago, the party went on a visitation tour. An evidence-based press conference was held. You saw our communications officer, the indefatigable Sami Jemfi, and his team, Akugan and others. I saw our colleague, the Mion MP, who facilitated their entry into the constituency. They held a press conference with journalists. I'm sure some of you journalists here were with them in the north. You were all in the dugout. Whether it's a dugout or a pond, it is not clear. Clearly, it's not a dam. Clearly, it's not a dam. A very failed very failed promise. So, ladies and gentlemen, many promises in the agri sector. I can go on and on and on. Another fantastic promise in the agri sector, promise number 56. They said, we will restore the Korle Lagoon, including the reintroduction of its fish stock. Korle Lagoon. I'm sure some of you drove here from the Korle Lagoon. And I decided to pay a visit to the Korle Lagoon myself. And no fish that can survive there. No fish. So, ladies and gentlemen, promise number 20. What we also do, after we have provided the list of and this is a very important information, after we provided the list in the sector of promises, giving you the page numbers and whether it's been delivered or not, we also do a snapshot, what we call a snapshot, where we take selected promises and provide you with detailed information, sometimes supporting documents, so that you can verify. You can join us to know how come we came to the conclusion that it has not been delivered. So sometimes World Bank documents, IMF documents, budget statements, their own statements, pronouncements, so we provide them. So the One Village, One Dam promise, it's interesting to read this. The Vice President says that they will do 570 of the promise of the dams by the end of 2018. That does not happen. Then you have the sector minister mention 560 in Parliament. That does not happen. Then you have the person in charge, Madam Kunedu, also mentioning a different. So comedy of contradictions and conflicting claims that point to the fact that that promise has not been delivered. And so these are pictures of the famous dams. One village, one dam. This is how they look like now. And I don't think you will tell me that this is a dam. I mean, this is not a dam. I mean, they themselves in their manifesto said that the One Village, One Dam is for all season farming to take place. So that even during the dry season, they didn't tell us that during the dry season, the dams will become a place where Sami Jemfi and his friends can take a walk and hold press conferences and all of that. You remember this famous press conference. They could all take a walk there, touch the floor. I mean, strange stuff. Then the cocoa sector, promise number 35, as part of the snapshot that we do for every sector. Promise number 35, the MPP's objective over the next 4 years is to restore production to over 1 million metric tons per annum. You find that promise at page 53. Clearly the NPP by this promise was trying to achieve the NDC record. Cocoa production record is with the NDC. We are the only party that has achieved the 1 million metric tons mark, which we should all be proud of. So they're trying to achieve that. 2016, 2017, President Mahama did so well to get close to the Professor Mills record of 1 million. He did 969,000. Then they came to power, and our good friend, the Agri Minister, and President Akufo-Addo, all they can do is lead us onto a decline by 12%, 904,000 for the 2017-2018 crop season. 2018-2019 crop season, it went down further by minus 10.3%. So 811,025 metric tons. So this is what we do. When we give you the detailed analysis, we even go beyond to tell you why this has not been done. And we provide the sources. This is the budget statement. The budget statement, government's own document, government's own budget statement for the agri sector. If you take the budget, do take all the 4 budgets, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 budget, and you see these figures in there. This is the Korle Lagoon as yesterday. Clearly, it has not been restored, and no fish stock can survive in this Korle Lagoon. Chieftaincy and religious affairs. This is a ministry that scores 0%, so there's not much to do here. And the promises were not difficult promises, ladies and gentlemen. Promise 75, Ensure the prompt payment of royalties due chiefs, queen mothers, and traditional councils. Not a difficult one. Failed. Provide government support to the institution of chieftaincy in the performance of their duties, their evolution, and further modernization. Failed, according to our checks. Support the National House of Chiefs to codify and systematize traditional laws and culture. Failed. And what is even worrying, after failing to deliver to the National House of Chiefs, what we have been seeing now and hearing now are rather insults. Their communicators raining insults on the National House of Chiefs. Our revered chiefs should be respected, and that must stop. You cannot do that to the chiefs. Foster a collaboration of government agencies and traditional leaders that will center on the protection of water bodies and conservation of the environment. Forge a new and formal collaboration between chiefs, queen mothers, and traditional authorities with NADMO so that relief assistance can be better managed in our local communities during natural disasters and other emergencies. Failed. We checked with the chiefs and they are not enthused at all. The only thing we remember is that the last time the vice president led the NADMO team, he went distributing expired food relief items. So, I mean, let's come to the economy. Let's leave the 0% performing ministry. And let's listen to President Akufo on the economy.
$1, 1 CD. In the time of Mills and Mahama, 2 CDs, $1. If I was them, I would say to the people of Ghana, I'm sorry. We are sorry for the poor work we have done. We're going to go and think about ourselves. But that is not the people we're dealing with. The fruits of office, the money under the table has become sweet for them, so they're determined to stay. Are we going to allow that to happen? Are we going to allow that to happen? In Kufuor's time, one of the people who advised and helped him develop a strong CD was my running mate, Muhammadu Bawumia. Then he was deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. It's one of the reasons I brought him to come and join me, that we will work on the CD and create again a strong CD that will be able to allow us to develop our economy and allow our traders and our people to be able to develop. We have told the world.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's really what we're promised on the economy. We're told that there's this economic messiah who had a magic wand, and the exchange rate performance of $1, 2 CDs was that bad. What's the exchange rate today? 6 CDs. So, the man with the magic wand, where is he? So, the economy, 45 promises, only 12 promises have been delivered. So we score the MPP we scored the MPP 27%, 73% not delivered on the economy. And you have the details that we have provided. The economy pages are from pages 13 all the way down to about page 20. That was the focus on the economic subsector. And ladies and gentlemen, you would realize that there are a lot of failed promises here, just like in many sectors. Take the first economic promise, growing the economy and creating wealth and prosperity for the vast majority of Ghanaians through private sector empowerment. Failed. We spoke to a lot of people in the business sector. They say that now, I mean, it's Kokofu football. It's all family and friends. That's what's going on. And the few businesses they came to meet, they are destroying them. They are struggling. You all know what has happened to the financial sector of this country. And as they are doing that, check how a few businesses, a certain economic empire is being created for a clannish system to use their own chairman. You remember that fight at GMPC, that revealing letter that was authored by Freddie Blay, the chairman of the MPP, accusing them of some clannish system, very tight-knit. And you heard recently the Works and Housing Minister defend it. That why? I mean, the Achim Mafia, so what? We are deserving. You take the Achims out and there's no history for Ghana. Totally condemnable. Totally condemnable. But it tells you their mindset. And that's why this economy is struggling. Opportunities are just for a few people. Extremely few people. It's a close knit. Just the Achim. I'm told even Achim is not all Achim. Some of my Achim friends have told me that, hey, please watch it. It's just a chibi thing. Small Akufu Oforiata Kabal. And that's it. Take the 83rd promise. We will reduce the cost of doing business. Reduce the cost of doing business. And here, in a snapshot, you see several credible reports. The World Bank Ease of Doing Business report, for example. Ghana dropped 12 places. So the cost of doing business, empirical data suggests that we are not doing well at all. We will maintain fiscal discipline. That has not happened. And I'm glad that there will be a Q&A. We have the finance gurus here who will join us to take your questions. Reduce government borrowing. Reduce government borrowing. Failed is the status. You know what has happened. You know what has happened. Taking our public debt from 120 billion to over 230 billion as we speak. We'll provide a snapshot and give you the details. Bank of Ghana's own, and I don't think they dispute those figures. So they have not reduced government borrowing. And you know the disingenuous thing the Vice President does in his 388 infamous presentation? He changes this promise in that 388 presentation and says, we promise we will reduce the rate of government borrowing. Rate of government borrowing. The intellectual dishonesty is mind-boggling. Reduce interest rates to spur private sector investment. We give them that because there was some, the data shows, if you look at the Bank of Ghana MPC reports, some token reduction, which really is not reflecting. When you read that same report and you look at real interest rate, but that's why I tell you that we've been quite generous and charitable in this exercise. So where the data says give it to them, even if it's 1%, we give it to them. We don't challenge that. But even with that generosity, look at this slide. Only one promise delivered. Everything. Build the most business-friendly and people-friendly economy in Africa, which will create jobs and prosperity for all Ghanaians. It's become massive job losses, massive layoffs. We will ensure that growth is socially responsible, diversified. It's not happening. To achieve double-digit GDP growth annually for the next 4 years. Double-digit GDP growth. Failed is what they score. You know that they haven't achieved that. So, on and on, the economy slides. It's terrible. Look at promise number 94. Our government will secure the peace and stability of our nation. That has not happened. NPP will implement policies to invest in rural, coastal, Zongo and inner city communities. All the pledges they made, financial pledges in those sectors. When we checked in Parliament, the funds are not being released. So it's not been achieved. Restore macroeconomic stability. Shift the focus of economic management from taxation to production. We will soon show you a slide that has 11 different taxes that they have introduced. So it's all been failure galore. There will be specific targets for the reduction of government borrowing and debt. Failed. That hasn't happened. So you notice that many promises in the economic subsector, reducing the corporate tax rate from 25% to 20%. 4 years on, they've presented all their budgets. President Akufo-Addo has presented his last budget. It's just left with the media review, which normally does not really touch on major shifts. So you can say that this promise has not been delivered. So you notice that the special import levy that has been delivered, we give them that. Abolishing the 17.5% VAT on imported medicines not procured. Our checks indicate that they have delivered on that, so we give it to them. Just to show you that this is an objective exercise. We are being very fair where we must give it to them. Abolish the 17.5% VAT on financial services. That's delivered per our checks. Abolishing the 5% VAT on real estate sales. Our checks indicate that that has been delivered, so we give it to them. But apart from that, you notice that all the other matters, increased tax compliance, reduced government expenditure. You know that government expenditure has gone up in unprecedented levels. Cost of travels alone at the presidency, you recall that it created such a stir last year. So the snapshot on the economy will encourage you when you get your slides, those of you who are reviewing our website. It makes for interesting reading. We provide you with documentation and links to the various sources that help us come to the conclusion that we have come to. So for the sake of time, Ghana drops 4 places in ease of doing business. So these reports, I'm glad that I see some financial journalists here. They can confirm that these are matters. Cost of doing business has gone up. These are press statements that the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications put out, that with the introduction of the 50% increase in the communication service tax, they have no choice but to increase the cost of data, the cost of telephony. It's all gone up. Fundmail Ghana Limited also issued a statement that, look, the cost of doing business has become unbearable. So they have also had to increase their products, the very popular Fundmail products. Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. And all of this, the breweries, all the breweries issued statements not too long ago that, look, the cost of doing business in Ghana has become very, very unbearable. So we have attached all these press statements so that you can tell from yourself, tell for yourself, whether is the NDC trying to just, portray a picture that does not exist. You can check for yourself. These are industry players who are telling you what is happening. Fiscal discipline as well, we provide you with the data. The NDC's contention, very strongly, is that the energy sector debt, the financial bailout, must be part of. We agree with every objective economist, including those in the IMF and the World Bank, who say that that must be part of our fiscal situation. It should not be treated as under the table, just so as we massage the figures. Massaging figures does not and it's affecting even the management of COVID. I'm happy that the COVID national team is here, the NDC COVID advisory team is here. When you keep massaging figures and all of that, people lose confidence, and it doesn't help. It will affect every sector. So I'm hoping that the government will stop these things. Reduce government borrowing, we also provide the data there. They met the public debt at 120 billion, as I've said earlier, is now 236.1 billion Ghana cedis, and they are still borrowing. Every week we go to Parliament, there's one facility or the other, and when they are borrowing, they don't want to pay. Our ranking member of the Finance Committee has flagged a number of issues. Our debtors are demanding their monies, and we are defaulting on paying our loans. That is what worrying. You are beginning to default, and yet the borrowing binge continues. You are totally unhinged, just borrowing galore. That certainly is worrying. So that's Ghana's debt stock. My journal line confirming the figure of 236.1 billion. Certainly they took that from the Bank of Ghana report, which we have provided.
About our oil money. Let's forget about gold. Just put all of those resources that they've had aside. I just want to focus on one statistic. How much money have they borrowed since they've been in office these last 7 years? When they came in, Ghana's debt was 9.5 billion Ghana cedis. Today, after 7 years, they've increased it from 9.5 billion, that is from independence to 2008. Today, they've increased it to 90 billion Ghana. This is like 10 times what has happened. Now, I sat down the other day and I said, okay, how much is this additional borrowing in dollar terms? In dollar terms, they met a debt of about $8 billion in 2009 beginning. 8 billion from independence to 2009. They have added, as of today, they borrowed up to a value of $34 billion. Now, by the end of this year, we are projecting that borrowing will reach 40 billion. As I said, they are going to challenge me, and I'm ready for that. And I'll explain to them. Now, you think about it. If you had $40 billion at your disposal over a 7-year period, just 40 billion, what have they done with all this money? Forget about the cocoa, oil, gold, and taxes. I'm just talking about the borrowing. What have they done with all that money? If you take all the NDC signature projects, they'll say circle, interchange, Safo line, this hospital, they've mentioned them in the budgets. If you add all of that, you are talking of around $3.5 billion. All of that. The hospitals, the roads that they are talking about, including the gas plants in Ottawa, all of that, $3.5 billion. Now, you have to account for $40 billion borrowing by the end of the year. If you had taken that 40 billion and even taken 20 billion of that and given each region, including the Volta region, $2 billion, you would have seen the major transformation that would have happened in this country. Because all...
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, the same logic applies. So he was concerned what we did with our 40 billion. Despite seeing everything, the Circle Interchange, the Kaswa Interchange, the Tamale Airport, the Kotoka Terminal 3 project, the whole airport, the Sofola Interchange, the KJTR Market, the Fufusu Solar Road, the Eastern Corridor Road from the Dodi Pepeso Stretch. Despite seeing all of that, the Ridge Hospital, the polyclinics that were rolled out all over, the University of Ghana Medical Center, despite all of that, still was asking, what have they done with their 40 billion? That question is relevant today. They are 236 billion. What have they done with it? I mean, see how they are struggling. So because they don't have similar JM legacy projects to show, the president must declare the Green Book a fantasy book and see how they are struggling. I mean, poor Pius is the one being attacked, but it's not his fault. I mean, when you are sent out there to defend a lie that your boss has put out, really, do you blame the poor Pius? You know, so that's Ghana's debt stock position, 120.3 billion, 2017 increased to 142.6 billion. By 2018, it had increased to 173.1 billion, all the way to March, 236.9 billion. So Ghana's public debt has the increase is about 96%, and they've almost doubled our entire public debt. That's really the fact, almost doubled. And this is data from the Bank of Ghana. So that same question applies. What have you done with all this money you borrowed? Because unlike President Mahama, we don't see your circle interchange. We don't see your Kaswa interchange. We don't see your University of Ghana Medical Center. We don't see your Ridge Hospital. We don't see your whole airport. We don't see your Tamale airport. We don't see the Kumasi airport. We don't see the E-blocks that President Mahama was constructing. Next to Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the Mills Mahama administration will compare very, very favorably. We are not seeing that. So relevant question then, relevant today. What have they done with all the money borrowed? So there are many snapshots under the economy. I told you earlier that when they claim they will move this economy from taxation to production, it has rather ended in tears with more taxes. They have introduced even more killer taxes. I told you 11 of them, according to Finance Committee in Parliament. 5% VAT disguised as N-Hill and Get Fund levies. 3% VAT flat rate. 27% increase in ESLA. 50% increase in communication service tax, whose deduction government has forced the telcos to hide. The luxury car tax, you remember that they only took it out when President Mahama said that when he is sworn in, it will be one of the first things he will do. Then they hurriedly took it out. Retention of 2% component of special import levy. Extension of 5% national fiscal stabilization, despite the sunset clause, which makes it a new tax. Failure to reduce the corporate tax from 25% to 20%. So, in the economy, they have not kept faith with the Ghanaian people. And
when I look at the economic management team, it is quite clearly a fantastic team. Professor Jambafo, Dr. Akutose, Dr. Afriye Akutu, Honorable Alan Chiramanting, Boachi Ejaku, Ken Oforiata, Senior Minister Yao Osafo Mafu. What a solid team.
What has the solid team delivered? Half and puff, high on rap and names, big names. But when it comes to actual delivery, they are found wanting. The education subsector is next. The failure is so high, only 7 out of the 38 promises have been delivered. And 18% delivery is a scorecard, and we provide the details. So free education has been delivered. We give them that, even though what they put in the manifesto is not what they delivered. They said they will implement it. They did not believe in progressive free education, which we had rolled out. But eventually they implemented progressive. First years first, second years, then third years. But no worries. We'll give it to them. So we did. But raise quality of education. We provided a snapshot, several reports that show that quality of education is dwindling. Our children in public schools are struggling to read. Work with universities to raise their standards to the ranks of the best amongst their peers in Africa. And yet you see what they are doing as we speak. There's turmoil in the universities. The public university bill, the most obnoxious bill. And I salute President Mahama for stating clearly that is one of the laws he will repeal if they go ahead with their hard-headedness and implement the public university bill. I mean, I've worked in that sector. There's nothing wrong. Our universities are one of the most respected institutions. The vice chancellors do such a great job. Just because you couldn't have your way at KNUST, because the chancellor, for himself, put his foot down. You couldn't have your way, so you now want to arrogate powers to yourself, to undermine academic freedom, to undermine the autonomy of our institutions. And it is really sad. And you're seeing that in all sectors. Check all the independent reports. They are climbing down on the media. They are going after the Auditor General. I mean, they want this country to be a police state where they are in total control. They control everything. We cannot build a democratic society that way. And I get deeply, deeply disgusted at what is going on. The abuse of power. They should leave our public universities alone. Leave academic freedom. Leave the autonomy of our institutions. So, so many promises in the education subsector because of time, but you notice that we have listed all of them. They've all been listed in very detail. Many of you did not know. I remember during the lockdown, there was a lot of debate. You were appealing and begging the president to reduce the cost of data, communication data. Many of you didn't know that at page 111 of the MPP Manifesto, promise number 155, the MPP had promised, quote, MPP will, in collaboration with the private sector, provide free Wi-Fi coverage for senior secondary and tertiary institutions nationwide, dedicated to learning, administration, and enhancing the capacity to do research. Free Wi-Fi, not reduced cost though, free. And can you imagine even this, the vice president says, oh, delivering. Probably they'll deliver it midnight of 6 January after they have been kicked out after the election. So, I mean, so many promises in the education sector, mechanisms to put in place to ensure salaries of newly trained teachers are paid promptly. The technical universities will be assisted to refocus on technical education and will be at the forefront of MPP's one district, one factory. I mean, there are no one district, one factory. Technical universities have nothing to do in that regard. They have done some work with teacher trainee allowance, so we give them that. We don't take that away from them. We give them that in the education subsector. And we provide the snapshots also. The views of teachers will be sought on education policy innovation implementation. That's promise 141 at page 108. That is what they promised. Unfortunately, they have rather been hounding teachers. You know what has happened to teachers who have just raised concern about the poor implementation of free SHS. What double track is doing, the lack of facilities. You raise your voice, they clamp down on you, descend heavily, they dismiss you. So they are not fulfilling this promise. So many teachers, now a culture of silence. They've cowed our teachers. Even in this COVID management, listen to NAGRAT, listen to CCT, listen to NAT. They are worried about their lives. They say, look, at least just test us before you reopen the schools. Test us, test the non-teaching staff, test students, so that before you go and lock us up in this environment. All the experts have said that, look, the teacher unions are making legitimate concern. Dr. Wapia is here. He said that. President Mahama has said that. Just test them. And we are receiving, as former Deputy Minister for Education, receiving so many PTA meetings, calls. Parents are truly worried. Because look at the numbers, the rise in cases. Our case count is going up. We are approaching the 12,000 mark. Teachers are genuinely worried. And they are partners in development. When we were at the ministry, we work with them. Every month, we hold a stakeholders meeting with the unions. That has been abandoned. They are not engaging stakeholders. They will not listen to them. And yet, from today, schools are supposed to be reopening. They say they are easing restrictions. And no testing is going on. How many of us really will have the confidence to send our children to school under such an arrangement? So, this promise is not being kept. They're treating stakeholder concerns with contempt. That's not how you govern. So, I can go on and on in the education subsector, the energy, petroleum, and power subsector. We've also done detailed analysis of that sector. Not too long ago, our respected member of the committee and former deputy minister of the sector presented you a detailed account of the sector. So, I do not intend to rehash the matters that he raised. The energy sector scores a paltry 18%. Only 18% of promises have been delivered, despite all the work that was done by Honorable Boa and the team, Honorable John Jinapor, pursuing President Mahama's vision, providing the 10 Sankofa fields. They've had, if you look at the record, and John Jinapor proved that the last time, they have had more resources than any government in their history. Combine all the governments, they've had more resources from the the oil and gas sector, and yet nothing to show for it. And read the PIAC reports. The PIAC report. PIAC is reporting hundreds of millions of dollars that remain missing, that cannot be found. Our oil funds, they cannot even account for it. Read the PIAC reports that are submitted to Parliament, and you'll be very, very troubled what is happening to our oil resources. So we provide the details, as we do for all the other sectors in the energy sector, and you see the scorecards. But there's an interesting promise in the energy sector that many of you may not have averted your minds to. Page 42, promise number 188. They promised to build solar parks in the northern part of the country. To achieve this, we will provide investment tax credits to owners of commercial, industrial, and utility scale solar photovoltaic PV systems to take a one-time tax credit of qualified installed costs. So they said they will build solar parks. Not one. I think they even forgot. Interestingly, the Vice President does not even remember this promise. It's not in their 388 list of promises. So they are very good at grandiose talk, big talk, big talk. I mean, this is a government you must be very concerned and worried about. They clearly have not taken the mandate that they have been given, the social contract they have with the people. The power sector as well, so many failed promises. Many of you may not have averted your mind to promise number 207 in the power sector. They promised to facilitate, in collaboration with the private sector, the establishment of an oil refinery in Second Takrady. Oil refinery in Second Takrady. Big promises, but they have forgotten about them. And as I told you, we have combed the manifesto. We provide you every promise that they made. We provide you with a page number. And when we do a snapshot for the energy sector as well, and provide you with all the relevant documents. Foreign affairs, the sector that I submitted considerable memoranda to the research committee that worked, 38% delivery. I did indicate that that is the best performing ministry. But even there are some failures. The ministry will facilitate linkages between ambassadors and high commissioners and MMDCs with a view of maximizing investment and trade opportunities for local authorities. That hasn't happened. They failed in that regard. The MPP will review existing policies to take into account the new world order with respect to developments like Brexit, the emergence of China and other BRIC nations, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa. That policy has not been put together as we speak. We give them the MPP will prioritize the economic development opportunities in our foreign policy space. We give them that. But link our businessmen with foreign counterparts in strategic alliances. That is not happening. It's only the cronies, and then priority is given to foreign investors. That's not happening at all. You notice that promise number 218. A significant aspect of our foreign policy will be the promotion of the welfare of Ghanaians living in the diaspora. You know that initially when we in the minority said that, look, our compatriots are stranded abroad due to the closure of borders. They called us names, dismissed it, and all of that. As we speak, they are now struggling to put together a timetable. And even look at the cost. Look at the cost. Other countries, you can, if you are in distress, they give you a waiver. If you don't have money now, credit, you can pay later. And quarantine, as I said earlier, $12.7 million as part of the $100 million World Bank facility was approved in Parliament for quarantine. They haven't told us that that money is finished. So why do people have to pay 12,000 cedis, 14,000 cedis for 2 weeks quarantine? And why not even have a liberal regime where people can go online and choose hotels of their choice? If you make it competitive, you know the economic principle about competition. It will drive down the price. But you have selected just a few hotels, and you are forcing our compatriots abroad to choose those hotels. What was the criteria? What's the criteria in choosing just those few hotels? and forcing everybody to apply and putting out the rates. I mean, who does that? Who does that? This is not the empathy you show when your people are distressed. They are in a tight corner. Things are really dire. That's not what you do. That's not what you do. And that is why sometimes we complain about why people are not being patriotic. People are not loving Ghana and all of. When you do things like this, I mean, let's think about it. Let's think about it. So we are not happy at all about how our compatriots abroad are being treated. So the foreign affairs snapshot is presented as well. Under governance, corruption, and public accountability, this is where they have failed. They have fared very, very poorly. Though it's an overall poor performance, but there are some poorest of the poor performances, and the governance sector is one of them. Only 2 promises out of the 18 promises have been fulfilled. And they made very lofty promises. Let me run through them quickly. The NPP will also deepen political participation in bringing back the People's Assemblies to encourage citizens to participate in government. The People's Assembly concept has been abandoned. Poor President Kufuor, his own party will not follow his legacy, though they promised it. They've abandoned it. Promise 224, the NPP will fight corruption head-on through preventive, detective, corrective, and punitive actions. Apart from the rhymes, that's all what has happened in the corruption fight. Rhymes. That's all. And the corruption perception index, we've attached the report at the end of this presentation. You see that we are dropping and our worst performance ever. The only thing they've done on governance is the office of the special prosecutor. That has been delivered. But what has been the outcome of the delivery? All these corruption cases happening. Where is the special prosecutor? It's really troubling. Strengthening the institutions of state, we shall require the Attorney General to report to Parliament annually on the potential liability of the state arising out of claims against the state. That has not been done even once. Asset declaration regime, the President shall within 14 days forward a list of appointments made in pursuant to Chapter 24 of the Constitution to the Auditor General. Page 136. That has not been done. Effective monitoring of asset declaration by amending the law to require the Auditor General to publish periodically the list of all persons appointed under Chapter 24 of the Constitution who have declared their assets. It's not happening. The Auditor General is having a tough time getting people to comply. You have a situation where we are told that Parliament will be called upon to amend the law to provide for public disclosure of asset declarations. That has not happened. Code of conduct. As part of the fight against corruption, the NPP government shall enact, popularize, and enforce a comprehensive code of conduct of public officials so as to give full meaning and effect to the provisions of Article 284 of the Constitution. It's not been done. Statutory funds. They promise that the NPP will establish an automatic mechanism of transfer of statutory funds to designated agents such as the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, District Assemblies Common Fund, and NHIS as stipulated. Ladies and gentlemen, that has not been done. Rather, what we have seen is that we in the minority, and I on this note, let me salute the Honorable Benjamin Kodo and the Honorable Richard Kwashiga, who came together in that joint effort to protect the District Assembly Common Fund. What the Finance Minister did was to rather define the 5% in the Constitution on his own terms, and he was shortchanging the district assemblies. It had to take the minority to go to court, and as I salute, often we always do that. We salute those who initiate the case, but the lawyers who prosecute the case, and Dr. Ayeni, I greet you wherever you are. I know you and your constituency. He did a great job in that landmark Supreme Court decision that protected the District Assembly Common Fund. Remember also that they've introduced capping, where they have capped all of these funds. So instead of automatic transfers, that is not what is happening. And we are deeply worried in the minority about how these statutory funds are being treated. So I can go on and on and on. Promise number 232 is a particularly interesting one. Listen to what they say. amend the relevant sections of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, particularly sections 3, 151 and 239 to 257, to make corruption a felony rather than a misdemeanor. A felony rather than a misdemeanor. My brothers and sisters, they have forgotten about this promise. It doesn't even feature anywhere. But it's there in their manifesto, paragraph 137. Reform laws to set time limits within which an appointed authority must fill any vacancy to confirm a person acting in that office, where the institution has a watchdog role. You know my battles over the Shraj appointment of a second deputy commissioner. It had to take pressure in Parliament. More than 3 years, they kept that office vacant. They didn't fulfill that promise. That's why we scored them failed. So on this slide, it's failed, 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 failed. The only thing under governance is the right to information. And even that, we had a heated debate in our research work. Even that, though they have passed it, it's not been operationalized. When one of our colleagues, the Honorable Ashaman, Member of Parliament, decided to test the law with the Electoral Commission, the Electoral Commission said that there's been no LI approved, the fees and charges are not known, so we can't help you. You and your lawyer, Martin Pebu, please give us some rest. We can't help you. They just dismissed. So, but we have been charitable in general. So though it's not been operationalized, we give it to them that it's been passed. But that's not what the people of this country want. The people want the law to work, for it to be operationalized so that we can deepen transparency and accountability, achieve good governance. That is what matters. So you can go on and on. Promise number 239, resource the Auditor General's office to set up a procurement audit unit to conduct value for money audits with a view of detecting and prosecuting corrupt practices. That has not been done. Rather, the Auditor General, Yaldom Levo, is under attack, and he's facing all kinds of persecution as we speak. His only crime was that he dared touch the senior minister in that infamous Kroll audit case. So you can see for yourself, and we provide a snapshot, very detailed analysis with evidence why we score them so low under governance. The next segment we go to is growing together. I'll begin to run through the slides quite quickly. We just want to show you that we have been thorough with this exercise, and it's taken us a lot of weeks and a lot of months of painstaking effort. Growing together, 24% is the scorecard, and they have only delivered 6 out of the 25 promises that they made in that sector. And this is where you find the Implement the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, IPEP. One constituency, $1 million. One constituency, $1 million. It's not been done. They gave us the impression that, as members of Parliament, we'll even sit with them, have a say on how the $1 million will be shared. There will be no constituency without toilet, without education facilities, water, and all of that. It's not happened. When we asked the Honorable Minister responsible for special development initiatives in Parliament, where the 2017 allocation is, she told us that the money has expired. Yeah, that's what she told us. That, we should forget about it. We are in 2018. It's only under this government that you hear of money expiring. You know, it's mind-boggling, totally unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. So there are all kinds of promises under this sector. In the health sector, only 7 promises out of the 41 promises have been made. And here, ladies and gentlemen, it will shock you to realize that they made very, very interesting promises in the health sector. And this is a very important slide. I want you to please pay attention. The NPP hospital promises, fact versus fiction. So at page 119 in the NPP 2016 manifesto, they promised 1 district, 1 hospital. They say that we'll upgrade all existing district hospitals where they exist. And where they do not exist, establish 1. NPP's aim is for each district to have at least 1 hospital. So they will upgrade the existing. My Bator Catholic Hospital, I have to go there every month to help them. There's been no upgrade. No upgrade at all. And the 88 districts without hospitals, it had to take COVID. If COVID had not happened in their last year in office, they wouldn't have remembered this promise. But that's not all. There are more interesting promises in that sector. It will amaze you. Working with the private sector, we will establish trauma centers along the major highways. Trauma centers. All major highways will get trauma centers. I mean, they have big ideas, ladies and gentlemen. They can talk big. They can talk big. I mean, they can really talk big. Can talk big. I have a young daughter, and I must say on a lighter note that when MPP men approach her, she has to be quite careful because they really can talk big. They really can talk big. And if my poor Indiva is not careful, she will be just swept off her feet. You know, they really talk big. But that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. Page 149. Build 2 new police hospitals in Sunyani and Bolgatanga. Many of you in the ongoing debate have not seen this promise. They hid some of the promises under the security subsector. So Agenda 88 is not all. President Akufo-Addo, please be reminded. You also promised 2 new police hospitals in Sunyani and Bolgatanga. Where are the police hospitals? Construct a new military hospital in Tamale. The people of Tamale are asking, where is their new military hospital? Where is the new military hospital? Page 151. Construct 2 prison service hospitals. 2 prison service hospitals. One for the southern sector and one for the northern sector. So what they did was that every security service should have their hospital. Military, police, fire service. They talk big. They talk very big. And not even one. It had to take COVID. So any wonder Ghanaians are saying that they want President Mahama back and back so quickly? Because President Mahama is a visionary leader. He does not wait for a pandemic to happen or an epidemic to occur before he builds a hospital and before he comes to announce, I'm going to do 88 hospitals. Clap for me. You promised that already. And even more lofty promises. Where are all those hospitals? Where are they? They did have to take COVID to remind President Akufo-Addo of his promises in the health sector. Very, 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 very embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. And there are even more promises. They said they will review and restructure the sources of funding for NHIF. That's been a total failure. They have not achieved it. Directly and strictly ceding all funds raised through the NHIF levy into the NHIF. They've rather capped it, and they are doing their automatic delivery. It's really, really sad, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this promise at paragraph 280. Upgrading all existing district hospitals where they exist and where they do not establish one. It's all been just talk. Strengthening the flagship community health planning services, CHIPS program. That has not been achieved. Implementing a national epidemic response system. If they had implemented this, it wouldn't have taken Dr. Jewapia and his team, Prosper Bani, Alessegbefia, Zaneto Rollins, and the other doctors, Dr. Dankwa and co, in our rather inspiring COVID-19 technical team, to be reminding them that we need a plan. And they keep talking about it. Up to now, no plan. They've not published it. Imani has been asking for a plan. Bryce Simmons, they say publish it so we can all know what is happening. We can all see the published papers and see your plan and how we are all responding to it so that experts can help you. Other countries have published their plans. You promised in your manifesto, and yet you still don't have it. So we are dealing with a government that is just high on promise, very high on promise, but low, totally low in delivery. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the health sector. Infrastructure is the next sector. 82 promises. Only 7 have been delivered, so a 9% performance. And in the infrastructure sector, we also provide you details. And you see every manifesto promise. It lets you know which page you can find it and what is the status. The NPP will reorient the national capital expenditure budget to place a focus on local constituency-specific needs. That hasn't happened. Implement the National Asset Protection Project. That hasn't happened. The NPP will develop interconnected roads, railways, ports, and harbors. Not one. Not one. Our ranking member, Honorable Kwame Agboja, has been reminding them of their promises. They have forgotten a lot of them. When you look at the 388 promises, they don't even want to talk about it. Establish a special purpose asset securitization vehicle to hold these assets and leverage them to raise funds for their completion. It's not happening. The NPP will adopt a quality, affordable housing for all, not housing for some, housing for all strategy. That has not, even the houses that they came to meet, Saglemi has been abandoned. I drive past that project every day, and it's a reflection of how terrible our politics has become. I mean, houses virtually completed. Why can't you just deal with the actual construction, deal with it, separate the issues, deal with the allocation? Let all these workers who have to travel from far. During the lockdown, look at how health workers, it had to take CTFM to introduce some service, and then government just elbowed them out. We had to bus them from far afield to their working centers. Can't we just allocate these completed houses? And then whatever issues you say they are, issues that we can't understand, we don't know the head and tail. You say that there is something fishy, and yet you came to office and paid the contractor. The Works and Housing Minister, he himself signed $5.6 million, paid the contractors. You say the contractors, it's a dubious transaction, yet you paid them, you took part in the dubious dance. And yet the houses, and you see what is worrying, ladies and gentlemen, is that the houses are deteriorating. We are going to have to spend more money to bring it back to where it was. If Ghana was your company, your private concern, is that how you will run the country? So very, very sad commentary about our politics. And this is another interesting promise in the infrastructure space. Tar gravel roads, especially in areas of high agriculture production and tourism. They will tar all those roads. Very, 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 very interesting promises. Reduce fatalities and injuries on our roads by scaling up efforts in road safety programs. We provide you with the statistics. The fatalities are going up. And the NPP will seek to make the country's airports aviation hubs for the international and regional airlines within West Africa. That has not happened. The National Identification Scheme, we will register every resident in Ghana within the first year that we take office. We know that we are still waiting for cards for less than 30% of the population. So, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, there are many, many strange promises. When we give you the slides, we have said that there is a pack for everybody who is here today. Everybody will receive a pack of these presentations. So, pardon me if I have had to rush through the slides because of time. Don't forget some of the interesting promises in the aviation sector. The Honorable Jogate announced sometime in November last year that Accra will soon have its first SkyTrain station in August 2020. So I want to take advantage of this platform to apply for the tickets. I want to be one of the first passengers on the SkyTrain. But what is interesting is that as this government talks big, you know, we've established how they talk big. What is interesting is that as they talk about SkyTrains, let's see what has been happening to the rail stations on the ground, the rail lines on the ground. Let's see what has been happening. So this is just a few days ago, ladies and gentlemen. A few days ago. And this is what the minister said. The minister said, Achimota Railway being washed away by flood waters. It's an act of God. So It's become a floating government. The bridges they build are floating away. I mean, you are not delivering. You are not delivering. The little that you try to do for us, that one you can't even do quality work. Your bridges are floating away. Your rail lines are floating away. Ladies and gentlemen, the government itself must be floated away on December 7th. And I told you how big they talk and how concerned I am for my young daughter. The promises don't end there. Honorable Atacha was in Parliament and he announced. All of us, we were shocked, we were taken aback. We almost fell off our chairs. He announced that Nima Mam will be the new Villaggio in Accra. We are still waiting. And this promise is not new. In their 2004 manifesto, they said that the Nima Mamobi Ashaman will have high-rise buildings and they will become the new East Legons and all of that. I mean, they will say anything for power. Say anything. And once they come into power, they forget about it. Another major news there, Baumia hit $15 billion jackpot. And they were all over the place. $15 billion. It's not happening. The Honorable Kwame Agboja told them in Parliament that this $15 billion is not. You are not being honest with us. It's a phantom promise. It's not going to happen, and he has been vindicated. So that's the government we are dealing with. Lands and natural resources. This is where there's only one promise has been achieved. So 3%. They are responsible for the Galamsey fight. It's been a disaster. Because of time, I'll go through. But we have provided the detailed promises, the page numbers, and the analysis why we say that they have not achieved the promise. And we know, we live in Ghana, and we know that the whole Galamsey fight has been a sham. Local government is the 0%, it's only 12 promises, and yet Haji Alima cannot achieve any. Maybe just for those of you who think that we have been hard on the Honorable Minister, just listen to the promises. Oversee the district election of Metropolitan Minister and District Chief Executives within 24 months of election to office to coincide with the next District Assembly election in 2019. It was not delivered. Strengthen the substructures of MMDAs through capacity building and adequate resource allocation. Failed. It's not been delivered. Strengthen the role of traditional authorities within the local government system. Improve allowances paid to assembly members. It's not been delivered. Failed. Review the local government service regime and practice to ensure that local level action is not stifled by top-heavy bureaucratic institutions. It's not happening. Failed. Upgrade the Tamale campus of Institute of Local Government Service into a modern, state-of-the-art institute to train local government practitioners and staff in northern Ghana. Failed. The interesting thing is that for the local government sector, they themselves in their 388 understated manifesto presentation, local government, they said everything is delivering. So they themselves didn't have the courage to say that anything in local government has been delivered. So I can go on and on. Local government has just been a disaster. And that's a very important ministry. Very, very important ministry. I know that my senior colleague, the Honorable Emiliata, will be very worried. One of our most impressive DCs and regional ministers that this country has ever had. Passionate about local government. Protege of Professor Kwame Nkrumah. They will all be deeply, deeply worried about what is happening in the local government space. Science and technology, very important sector. Only one promise has been achieved out of the 17 promises. And you have a fine heart surgeon. I remember what my brother, Honorable John Jinapo, said about the professor the last time. But they said 2.5% of our GDP will be invested in the science and tech sector. That hasn't happened. The data speaks for itself. Establish a merit-based research system. It hasn't happened. Strengthen collaboration between industry, universities, research centers. It has not happened. It's simply not happening. In collaboration with the private sector and international financial institutions, establish a flagship system of Ghana Centers of Excellence. Have you seen any Ghana Center of Excellence anywhere? It's not happening. Build power plants that will use combustible domestic and industrial waste to generate electricity. I told you that they talk really big, but I bet you if you go and ask them now, they have forgotten about the promise. So I can go on and on. The security subsector, only 6 promises have been fulfilled, and I've told you about how they promised the security agencies their own hospitals, fire service, military across the country. They haven't delivered on any of them. As part of the overall commitment to improving the living conditions of our security personnel, the NPP will roll out a national barracks regeneration program that will invest in the rehabilitating and upgrading of their living quarters across the country. That's page 148, promise number 457. It has not been done. It's not been delivered. So the NPP will take immediate steps to decongest our prisons and introduce a system of separate dedicated prisons for remand and convicted inmates to serve proper correction homes. It's not been done. And in the security subsector as well, we provide you with the snapshots, further documentation, how we come to these conclusions that we have reached. Social development, out of the 39 promises, only 7 have been delivered, and it's an 18% scorecard, another abysmal performance, and it's really terrible that we have this government. Ghana School Feeding Program, instituting measures to reduce administrative costs at the barest minimum, they have failed. Rationalizing and improving monitoring process, training caterers in hygienic preparation of nutritious food, providing adequate funding and monitoring, ensuring regular payments made to caterers. You've heard the NPP women organizers, who are the caterers. They are up in arms. They have failed. Stimulating local agricultural growth by requiring caterers to buy and use foodstuff grown locally. That is also another promise they made. So many promises. They also said appointment of women to at least 30% of available public office positions. That's promise number 518, contained at page 129. And I know that gender activists are very worried about the failure to even acknowledge this promise. The last time when he appeared at the conference in Vancouver, Canada, we all recall how we were all embarrassed when the gender activists, had him for a meal, just because he was not prepared, and it's just not committed. I know that my dear sister Lassie will be deeply troubled about this performance. So many promises in the social sector space, which is very important because you have a country that there are many schisms, vulnerable groups that you need to protect, but you have a government that cannot be bothered. They are busy creating an economic empire for themselves. Tourism, culture, and creative arts is another sector that only 2 promises out of the 22 promises have been achieved. And we have documented all of the promises, providing you with page numbers, all of them. We provide you with page numbers, all of them. And it's just been a total disaster. If you look at some of the promises, look at promise number 552 in the tourism space. They say we will pursue the construction of modern, large sitting theaters in every regional capital except Accra, beginning with Takoradi, Tamale, and Kumasi. Large cinemas. Takoradi people are asking. You said you would start there. Tamale is next, and then Kumasi is not happening. It's not happening. Trade and industry, another sector where only 6 promises out of the 58 promises have been achieved. The scorecard is 10%. A very abysmal performance from the respected Honorable Alan Chairmantin. It's not clear if he has been set to fail or it is he himself. We all know the internal dynamics in that space. I will not delve further because Professor Mills taught us to deal fearsome. But what is clear is that the trade space is suffering. Skills training apprenticeship, they have failed. Promoting exports, especially value-added agriculture production, they have failed. Refocus the National Investment Bank to provide finance for the industrial sector, they have failed. And the failure is realign the focus of Ghana Investment Promotion Center to attract financing and investment, eliminate the current system of political patronage, and restructure existing state-sponsored microfinance schemes. They did exactly the opposite when they were given the opportunity. So the trade space, it's been a disaster. And ladies and gentlemen, you may not be aware that they also promise regional industrial parks in every region, that there will be an industrial park in every region. They also promised modern markets in every district, that every district will get a modern market. Every district. We provide all of those details in these slides. Then you remember one district, one factory. One district, one factory. And there were sponsored billboards all around this country, where every district, when there was an uproar that one district, one factory, do you mean it? What are you going to, really factory? I mean, you know what a factory is? A lot of the entrepreneurs were asking questions. Are you even sure that every district is ready? The factors of production, have you done your feasibility? Is there market available? Do you, do you have access to raw materials and all of that? Then they came up with this and said that, look, every district, expect yours, get ready for yours. And it has been just a drawing on the billboard, nothing to show for it. Youth and sports, 0%. And as young people, we must be very worried. Only 20 promises in the sector, and yet nothing has been achieved. And if you are in any doubt, look at the promises. Setting up Youth Development Authority to harmonize and coordinate all government-sponsored youth initiatives. It's not happening. Establishing a Youth Enterprise Fund that will provide funding and business development is not happening. Developing industrial parks in all regions, targeting young Ghanaians who start or wish to start small businesses, to provide them with access to workspaces, equipment, and basic services, including electricity and water. I mean, they just talk big. Offering tax incentives to young entrepreneurs to encourage them to initiate startups. It's not happening. It's simply not happening. Even in this COVID era, we have made a point that a lot of young entrepreneurs, young innovators are showing tremendous talent. So support them. You are getting $1 billion from the IMF, getting $100 million from the World Bank, getting $200 million from the Stabilization Fund, which President Mahama left behind for you. Can't you just hire for, even if it's just $10 million to support young innovators? Last week I met with a young innovator who held this country spellbound with his solar touchless hand wash system. He's been approached by the UN, Indian companies, Chinese, they all want the patent. And he's trying to register it. They've told him that it will take some time. But, we are not supporting them. Other countries, it is in adversity that the governments, when they show innovation, they rush to help them. How was VW started? Say everything you say about Hitler, which I agree with you, terrible guy. But he reached out to the VW innovator and pumped in resources, and see what Volkswagen and the German car industry, what it has done for that country. A lot of innovations. Inventors of T-bag, satellite systems and all of that. During wars, World War I, World War II, and their governments invest. And then it revolutionizes things, creates jobs, and empowers people. We just talk, they get a presidential mention, and we leave them to survive, fend for themselves. Each man for himself, God for us all. So there are so many promises. So ladies and gentlemen, I've just taken you through the 631 promises. I told you there were 631. I'm just taking you through them. So the NDC has conducted a very serious exercise. We are not just making phantom claims. 631. And we've provided you with the page numbers. And this program is live. The website, mppfailedpromises.com, is active. Go there and challenge any claim that we are making. The next section that we deal with is the Vice President's claims. We provide, for the avoidance of doubt, the 388 promises. We have listed all of them in these slides to let you know that we have done thorough work. So all the 388 is listed here. All the 388 promises is all here. It's listed in great detail. We want you to know that we have taken the effort to really assess all of these promises. Now, these are the promises the Vice President ignored. 235, as I pointed out earlier, he omitted them, and then he smuggled 8 in his 388 out of the 631 promises that we have counted. And we provide you with the sectoral analysis of the specific promises that were left out, so that you know that what we have said about this matter, we have done the content analysis. So the data is speaking to itself. Now, this segment is a very important one to shore up the numbers and create the impression that the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government is doing well. They created what they are calling the delivering segment. So there are 189 promises. Can you believe it? 189 promises they made, which they say they are delivering. We do not buy that weird theory. It's a face-saving theory. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, we don't expect that any government, we are all human, we are all fallible. The NDC, we made some promises that when we came to power, for example, one-time premium. Professor Mills manned up to the country and said, please, I've looked at the fiscal space, I've inherited single spine that President Kufuor signed in the dying hours. One-time premium is not possible. Please forgive me. We owned up to the people. That is honest leadership. Say whatever you want to say about President J.A. Kufuor. He promised to reduce the size of government drastically. He came to power in the year 2001 and saw that, look, opposition talk no be easy. You know, you can say all kinds of things, but when you come and see the reality, President Kufuor manned up to Ghanaians, owned up and said, look, I promise you that I'll reduce the size of government drastically. I can't do it. I think that I rather need more hands. And President Kufuor, Ghanaians accepted it. They at least applauded him for his honesty. But now the kind of leadership we have, they rather will conceal. They will hide 235 promises from the people. After they have done that, even the 388, they create a very strange theory of delivering. Now come along with me and let's see if this delivering makes sense. Agriculture, institute anti-dumping measures on poultry. Delivering. Develop capacity for local fertilizer production using gas and petroleum resources. 42 months, you haven't done this. And just 5 months, you are going to be able to do this. Ensure cocoa farmers receive stable prices, protected against exchange rate effects. Delivering. Can you imagine? And they added to delivered. Even if they had left it out. Because they know that if they don't add it, they will still be inching closer to the F that we have scored them. They added it to delivered. I mean, such intellectual dishonesty. Rehabilitate existing public irrigation systems, via especially, and develop new ones in the north and Afram plains. Delivering. 42 months, you haven't delivered this. Establish livestock development centers in the 3 agro-climatic areas. Cocoa sector intervention to support targeted production of over 1 million tons. You are rather on the decline. You met about 960,000 metric tons. It's now below 800, and you say that delivering. Between now and December 7, can you achieve 1 million metric tons? Upgrade the road infrastructure, connecting farming communities to market centers. You know how long it takes to even bid, get a contractor, raise funds. You haven't done this in 42 months, and you say that we should give it to you. You are delivering. Between now, 5 months, you can connect all the roads in our country to markets. I mean, let's be honest with the people of this country. Ensure that religious bodies in the health sector receive their NHIS payments promptly. I'm always in touch with the Catholic hospitals in my region. I mean, that's not happening. Support the National House of Chiefs to codify and systematize traditional laws and culture. You haven't done this in 42 months. You say you can do this. And the economy, build an economy which will create jobs and prosperity for all Ghanaians. An agenda for jobs. With all the job losses you have supervised in 42 months, is it between now and December that you will create jobs? Revenue generation measures through broadening the tax base, increasing tax compliance, reducing government expenditure. You are refusing to reduce your 124 ministers. You are refusing to reduce them. And then and presidential staffers. And you say you are going to reduce government expenditure. When? You haven't done that in 42 months. You've rather defended the elephantine size of government. Introduced tax credits and other incentives for businesses. Young graduates from tertiary institutions will benefit from that. You haven't achieved that. So tell me, ladies and gentlemen, they said they will establish a manufacturing plant at KNUST. 42 months, you haven't done nothing. We've checked. And the KNUST lecturers, everybody, the vice, I know they are watching. There is no manufacturing plant at KNUST. No, even the designs are not ready. But you say that you are delivering. Between now, 42 months you couldn't deliver. But between now and December 7, less than 6 months, you say you can deliver. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, can you believe that? Ensure that kindergarten places are available for all 4-year-olds in the country. You haven't delivered in 42 months. You can deliver between now and December. Collaborate with NAT, NAGRAT, etc. to facilitate an affordable housing scheme for teachers. We've checked with the unions. Nothing, no mention. You've not had any discussion with them. 42 months you haven't delivered. Between now and 6 or 5 months, few weeks, you say that you can have houses for all teachers. I mean, please, let us be honest with the people of this country. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are not buying this delivering theory. I hope you see where we are coming from. We are not buying the delivering theory because there's even no evidence that they are delivering. There's no evidence at all. So we totally denounce that delivering theory. The Ghanaian people are interested in measuring results, not effort. Results, not effort. That's what the Ghanaian people are interested in. Now, the next category is the smuggled promises. I told you that there were 8 smuggled promises that you will not find in the manifesto. Improve fertilizer distribution, reform and revive the National Buffer Stock Company, under the economy, reduce the rate of government borrowing. You will find that in the manifesto. They have created it, having seen the reality, and you see the lack of candor, the lack of sincerity. So you create your own manifesto promise, and you think that we won't catch you. The IGP has arrested you. Energy and power, revised gas processing and transportation tariffs as well as levies. It was in the manifesto. Decouple Ghana National Gas Company and Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. It was not in the manifesto. Upgrade the narcotic and illicit drug detection capabilities. Under social development, institute a pension for members, small-scale business association, as well as artisans across the country. Institute a pension scheme for cash crop farmers. They just introduced this to see if they can appeal to cash crop farmers. But it's not in the manifesto. So cash crop farmers in Ghana, tell them to inform you about the page where you can find it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is with the category that we talked about earlier, the smuggled promises. Now the next category is the deceptive promises. These are flawed promises, promises that should not have been made, ladies and gentlemen. 1, restore book and research allowances for lecturers. Book and research allowances were never taken away. They were not cancelled. Dr. Park is here, a respected lecturer, as he then was at the University of Ghana. No cancellation of book and research allowance. Yet they said they will restore. So a deceptive promise. Integrate school sports as part of school activities. School sports, PE, physical education, has always been with us. So deceptive promise. Energy sector, end doomsday in the short term through government liquidity injection. There was no doomsday, it had been resolved. Ensure there is sufficient reserve margin to ensure stability of the system. We've checked with the energy expert. We had President Mohammed's investments in the energy sector. We had excess capacity, excess. So, deceptive promise. Youth and sports. Establish a youth enterprise fund that will provide startups. We had it already. 10 million cedis was given to the youth enterprise support scheme by President Mahama. So deceptive. Trade and industry. Develop and implement a comprehensive project-based export diversification action plan. Restructure Maslow to provide credit for SMEs instead of using it for political patronage. Deceptive promise. Deceptive. Implement the 3% increase in common fund disbursement to persons living with disability. We implemented this. This is John Mahama legacy already being implemented. So this is a list of deceptive promises, flawed promises that they should not have made. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this exercise focused on the manifesto. But we want the people of this country to recall that the promises that this government made were not contained only in their manifesto. They made many promises outside the manifesto, and we have captured that as well. And we have not only captured them by writing to present them to you, we have captured them by wanting you to listen to the promises yourself.
These 4 years, by the end of the 4 years of my term in office as president, Accra will be the cleanest city in Africa. That is where we want to get to. That is the commitment I'm making on your behalf and on all our behalves, that by the end of the 4 years of Akufo-Addo's presidency, Accra will be the cleanest city in the entire African continent.
Ladies and gentlemen, you very much remember this promise. And it's even the gusto with which it is said, with all the thump in the air and all of that. As if the master plan is ready and everything is. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, so we checked out Accra a few days ago. We went to Kaneshi and it's so clean, so clean. It is so clean that international ranking agencies, this is what they have to say. The cleanest city in Africa now. Kigali, Rwanda. Number 2, Cape Town, South Africa. Number 3, Tunis in Tunisia. Number 4, Port Louis in Mauritius. Number 5, Johannesburg in South Africa. Number 6, Nairobi, Kenya. Number 7, Gaborone, Botswana. So Ghana is nowhere near number 1. We come 8th so far. And these things are measured. The source is there. We provided a source. The mybroadband.co.za. You see the source there. So, ladies and gentlemen, so many promises. Have you forgotten one student, one chocolate? CTFM Online carried it. Nanado promises one student, one chocolate. One student, one chocolate. They have forgotten about it. So you see, you make tons of promises in your manifesto. You are not delivering. You are trying to conceal a lot of them. And yet you come to power and you are still making more promises because they believe it works. We promised, Ghanaians believed it. It was so sweet. They swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker, gave us power. So let us just keep promising. When you come to power, you focus on delivering what you have promised, not in making more promises. Providing bank accounts for all Ghanaians. You remember that? That was supposed to be by end of 2019. All of us will have bank accounts. They talk big, I told you. They said they will build 350 senior high schools. A year ago, mynewsga.com. MPP has not forgotten 350 senior high school block promises. We will build them, John Bwedu assures, the General Secretary of the MPP. They've not done it in 42 months, but they want us to believe that in 5 months they will deliver. We, in 4 years, when we promised the 200 senior high schools, we could only hand over 50. We started 124. But even that, you hear the MPP saying we failed, we didn't deliver on it. No problem, whatever measuring stick you are using, no problem. We were honest, we didn't run away from the promise. We were honest to say that, look, we've handed over 50 completed, we've started 124 out of the 200 promises. You haven't even started one, and you're just promising. It's all just promises galore. So we come back to this very, very important slide, ladies and gentlemen, just to keep this presentation in focus. What we have tried to prove, and I believe that we have made a compelling case, is that only 631 promises were promised. 631 specifically. We are not adding more. 631 in the manifesto. Though we have just shown you other promises they made, but we decided to be very factual. They are not manifesto promises. Make Accra the cleanest city. You won't find it in the manifesto. Though he has made those promises to chiefs, Ghana chiefs. And I don't know how the Ghana chiefs are taking it, if they feel respected adequately. But he made those promises. We are not adding them to the manifesto promise. So 631. That's why when I tell you we have been very charitable. Imagine what the score would have been if we added all these promises. One student, one chocolate. Accra the cleanest. Skyscrapers, sky trains, and all of that. Even the 14%, you can imagine, they will have been inching down towards 5%. So we've been very charitable. So 388 promises, that's what they tried to account. A concealment, dishonesty, they smuggled 8 are deceptive, they omitted 235. That's why I told you in the beginning that this is a very important scorecard. And we challenge the New Patriotic Party to provide alternative data. We have provided our page numbers. They could not provide page numbers for their 388. And we have provided evidence why we say that these promises have not been achieved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer to the end of this first batch, which is the presentation. Then we will listen to you. We'll take a question and answer session next. But what is actually being delivered? You know, nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you have put your manifesto aside, clearly you've shunted it. Put it aside. You've jettisoned it. You've abandoned it. You are not implementing your manifesto promise. You have even forgotten 235 of the promises. Manifesto is not your what you are thinking about now. Then what are you doing with the power that has been given you? So this is our contention. We submit strongly that instead of fulfilling their manifesto promises, this is what the MPP has been busy delivering. The Ameri Innovation $800 million deal to fleece the state. The PDS debacle. The media concession mismanaged, leading to loss of over $150 million. Respected financial analysts like Alex Mode have even placed the loss far higher than this. And this is media which President Kufuor managed successfully, President Mills managed successfully, President Mahama managed successfully. Only President Akufo-Addo, he couldn't manage media successfully because of cronyism and internal fight over who gets a lion's share in the family Achim cabal arrangement which went bad. Free SHS double track fiasco, that's what they've been delivering. Teachers licensure exams, that's what they've been delivering. President Akufo-Addo's clearing agent tag has exposed him that his whole anti-corruption crusader self-serving title he gave himself has turned out to be a sham. The computerized school placement fiasco. They can't even get us children into secondary schools. When they fail miserably, then they blame President Mahama that he organized Ghanaians to go to the Independence Square to complain instead of fixing their mess. The boss contaminated fuel scandal. You heard some agency last week on that. Ahmed Swale's murder and the failure of the state to apprehend the perpetrators. Condolences to the young family. I don't want to remind them of their pain. But in Parliament, we keep pushing and asking, give us an update. They will not be bothered. But it does not send the right signal. Our embassies are complaining. The Reporters Without Borders are all complaining. What is happening to the Ahmed Swale investigations? They can't be bothered. Family and friends government. you have seen what this country has been reduced to. The Galamsey scandal. Galamsey fight has become, we are not comfortable with those who are doing Galamsey, so we are collecting the excavators. How inhumane and sensitive can you be? Collect the excavators and give it to your party people. Party Nyasika, you remember that leaked tape. And only last week, Professor Frimpong Boateng indicted a DC for diverting the excavators to MPP contractors who they don't like. You know, the tragedy of kidnapped Takoradi girls. I do not want to remind our mothers today, but very sad episode, as you recall. The political persecution that is going on. Bigger thieves are left off the hook. Bigger thieves. And then they spend time chasing political opponents. We are not against prosecution. Anybody does wrong in the NDC, deal with it. We are not, the NDC is not a criminal enterprise. We never have any meeting to discuss any wrongdoing or how to perpetrate wrongdoing. But we are against persecution. We are not against prosecution. The assault on press freedom, you know that we have been dropping, we've dropped on the press, the press freedom index. We've lost our #1 spot. Journalists don't feel safe any longer. Erosion of free speech. The national security invitation to press. Now if you're a journalist in Ghana and you predict the president's speech correctly, or almost near correct, or near accuracy, you will be invited. What kind of country is this? You will be invited. If you are a pastor and you don't speak the way they want you to speak, you know, you are picked up. And all kinds of substances will be planted on you. What kind of country are we building? The Auditor General cannot work freely. The Shared Commissioner cannot work freely. University lecturers, the universities are under attack. How much power do you need? Already constitutionalists, constitutional lawyers have said that our constitution places too much power in the executive arm. Parliament, we are weak. We are very weak. All we can do, talk. We even summon them, said they don't come. When you are in minority, it's all just so they can have their say. We will have our way. So much power, and yet they want more power. I mean, you want to construct a dictatorship? Is that what this government is about? Attack on academic freedom, insensitivity to the plight of stranded Ghanaians abroad, the Australia Commonwealth Games visa scandal, that brought a lot of international embarrassment to us. The National Service for Trained Teachers, which has never happened in our history, and we have promised that there will be no more National Service for trained teachers. They've done it already. Crony capitalism, the juicy contract to McDan, state capture. As you recall, the Franklin Templeton, the Ken Bond scandal, the bizarre and partisan bank microfinance closures leading to the loss of over 5,000 jobs, the GCNet saga, forced out of their contract, the ordeal that nurses and law students are going through when they march, they are beaten to pulp, the missing tricycles, brouhaha, expired foods distributed by the vice president, the aviation minister commandeers helicopter to file in the MPP primaries, the abuse of office, the appointment of Kwame Owusu, the Iceman, as board chairman of GRA, when everybody was complaining that this man was not fit for public office. We don't know how many air conditioners he alone wants to live in, you know. And we are saying that, look, just ship this Iceman out of Ghana to Iceland. That's what Ghanaians were asking for. And yet you made him the board chairman of GRA. The Ghana Post GPS scandal, you remember, $2.5 million. The Catch for Sea scandal, $100,000 to sit closer to the president. Do you remember what the South African ambassador said? He's there to just take care of MPP members. The Maslock CEO importation of second-hand cars that were presented in a different way, misrepresented. The newly constructed rail lines that washed away, as you saw. The shoddiness in the projects that are being implemented. The Kelny GVG saga, over $178 million 10-year contract. Imani has pursued this, other civil society organizations. The president is not bothered. The appointment of 124 ministers, the biggest the biggest in the history of Ghana. The Ayawaso West Wagon, electoral gun violence, vigilantism. You remember that we made history. We had the most expensive website, which was budgeted for 800,000 Ghana cedis by the Howard Kumsin-led ministry. Then family and friends. Meanwhile, on the 17th of January 2016, President Akufo-Addo stated categorically that, quote, "I will not operate a family and friends government." And yet, you see the cycle of friends and family, and all kinds of, and you see, nepotism. If you read the literature on corruption, nepotism is considered corruption. Nepotism, and it is totally amazing how President Akufo-Addo has been allowed to get away with this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we reach a crescendo, as we reach a crescendo, we in the NDC are not only interested in bashing our political opponents. We are interested, more importantly, in presenting our track record and what is our vision for the future. The future that on the 7th of January 2021, President John Dramani Mahama, inshallah, will be building for our country. So, in this segment of our presentation, we have listed what we achieved per our 2012 manifesto. And we have shown you the page in the Green Book, the famous Green Book, where you can see those projects. And by the way, let me send belated birthday greetings to Pius Hajide. I hear he celebrated his birthday yesterday, and since Felix Kwachi Ofosu is here, let me appeal to him to take it easy on my Voltarian brother. When you meet my brothers in the Joy FM studios, try and take it easy. You and Samson could have had a little bit messy, but I blame President Akufo-Addo. He set his deputy minister up for that trolling. So Ghanaians should have mercy on him. So you see that in this slide, for example, when the NDC said we will aggressively develop education infrastructure, in the Green Book, we account specifically 1,079 6-unit classroom blocks, 23 E-blocks that at the time have been completed with their pictures, the 189 two-story dormitories that have been completed, the 123 community day schools that were started. We provide details. You find that at page 13 of the Green Book. And by the way, we've brought some copies of the Green Book here, so everybody here today will get a copy of the famous Green Book. It's become a bestseller, so we know anywhere we appear, you ask us for copies. So this slide, distance learning infrastructure, the $37 million investment that we made in the 10 regions, the fiber optic layout, all of that is provided here. The conversion of the polytechnics to degree awarding universities. We did carry out the conversion. You find that at page 18 of the Green Book. The Bogatanga Hospital that we initiated, the Wa Hospital that we initiated. You find their pictures at page 23 of the Green Book. The new district assembly complexes that we constructed. You find them at page 23 of the Green Book. The new clinics that we built, you find them at page 24 of the Green Book. The CHIPS compound that we doubled, 1,260 CHIPS compounds. And you have the Honorable Emiliata here. She led the efforts in that regard. You find them at page 24 of the Green Book. The health centers that we constructed, 18 of them, including the University of Ghana Medical Hospital, the Rage Hospital, the polyclinics, and the hospitals that we initiated all across the country, from Sehua all the way to Ketu North in the Volta region. You find all of them at page 24 of the Green Book. We launched the National Housing Policy. We built the Teshi Nungwa Desalination plant. You find it at page 60 of the Green Book. So we provide you a detailed account. Terminal 3, you find it, upgrade Tamale Airport, as we said at the time in our 2012 manifesto. You find it at page 98 of our Green Book. So we in the NDC, when we promise, we don't conceal the promise, we don't forget them, we respect them, and we account. That's why we come up with the Green Book, is to account for our promises. We are not like those who will conceal 235 of their promises, who will try to obfuscate, create a certain delivering, weird theory, and all of that. Now, what is the hope that the NDC is offering? You have been hearing our flag bearer, and for the benefit of those who may not have followed some of his Facebook live sessions, these are some of the things that our flag bearer, the visionary, the dynamic, very hard-working President John Dramani Mahama, these are some of the things that he has said. He has promised massive job creation. And let me indicate that this list is by no means exhaustive. And we are not taking the wind out of the sails of our manifesto team. So we are not going to put out any new manifesto. My information reliably is that the manifesto is ready. So we are not, in the next few weeks, I'm sure, or days, I'm sure that the manifesto will be outdoor. So you will hear exhaustively what we will be doing when we come back to Power 2021. But this is just to recap what President Mahama has put out already, so that we don't take the wind out of the sails of the president of the former president when he launches the manifesto. He's talked about massive job creation, and he says that there's an HR gap analysis going on. He's put together a team, a crack employment team that is cracking the numbers and looking at all the vacancies. We haven't met UN standards in terms of even policing, the nursing ratio, doctors ratio, and all of that. They are doing all of that HR gap analysis, and they will put out very soon the number of jobs that the NDC will create in its first year. And you know that the NDC, when we promise, we deliver. We are not like some people who make excuses. His promise to expand and double the capacity at the 37 military hospital. He did it at the Ridge Hospital. So when he says he will do it in 37 hospital, you can trust him to deliver. Construct 2 international standard infectious disease control centers. You've seen the international standard hospital he built at the University of Ghana. So when he says he will do this, he will do it. He will do it. Establish 2 additional international research centers. Formulate a national infectious disease response policy and plan. Make Ghana safe for journalists again. Revive companies collapsed by the NPP. Construct 6 regional hospitals in the newly created regions. Establish 6 public universities in the newly created regions. Free technical and vocational education. Cancel national service and licensure exams for colleges of education graduates. Comprehensive review of senior high school education. Abolish double track system. Complete the abandoned E-blocks. Complete all abandoned hospital projects. Reduce the size of government by at least 40 ministers. Fix the full stretch of the Eastern Corridor Road. Dualize Aflao, Cape Coast, and Kumasi roads. New technologies for fisher folks. Build market complexes in border towns. Review rent laws and provide social housing for the masses. Rapid industrialization. Reform legal and medical education to create opportunities for the youth and transform our nation. Do away with the public universities bill and repeal it if the Akufo-Addo government goes ahead to have it passed. Launch a free national apprenticeship program for 200,000 youth and assist them to set up. He made this promise at the trade fair program, as you recall, sometime earlier in the year. And the NDC is also reminding you that we have always had a pledge to continue with our superior monitoring of our manifestos when we are in power. Anytime the NDC in power, we have a manifesto monitoring unit right at the heart of government, working with the president. You recall that under President Mills, it was led by the venerable Dr. Tony Edu. I greet him wherever he is. Under President Mahama, the unit was led by Dr. Valerie Sawyer. And I recall as ministers, every 6 months, you must submit reports and you come for cross-examination virtually. How are you delivering on those promises? And to add to that, take every NDC manifesto. when we are transitioning to the next government, we account. It's only the NDC that does that. The MPP does not do that. Check the 2012 NDC manifesto. Check the 2016 NDC manifesto. We account for the previous manifesto. We tell you what we said we will do and how much of that we have done. It tells you that we take our fidelity with the people, the social contract that we have signed with them, very, very seriously. And we make a pledge to you today that that tradition, which has served the NDC well, so that we don't score 14% and come and do some warped analysis and give ourselves 78%. That will not happen. In concluding, ladies and gentlemen, we need to recall some key facts about the MPP manifesto. They promised that they will upgrade all district hospitals. They failed. They promised that they will establish 88 hospitals in districts without a hospital. They failed. They promised that they will establish a police hospital in Sunyani and Bolgatanga. They failed. They promised that they will construct a new military hospital in Tamale. They failed. They promised that they will construct 2 prison service hospitals, one in the southern sector, one in the northern sector. They failed. They promised to construct trauma centers across our highways. They failed. They promised that they will restore the Kole Lagoon, including the reintroduction of its fisher stock. They failed. They said they will reduce the cost of doing business. They have failed. They said they will maintain fiscal discipline. They have failed. They said they will secure the stability of our nation. They have failed. They said they will implement 1 village, 1 dam. They have failed. They said that they will respect teachers' views and include them in policy formulation. They have failed. They said they will raise the standards of our universities. Rather, what is happening now is an attack on academic freedom. That one too, they have failed. We can go on and on and on and on about their failed promises. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have seen a government that conceals its promises and hopes that the citizenry will forget. We have seen a government that keeps making promises, even though they have accumulated tons of broken promises. New promises which they have no intention, absolutely no intention of fulfilling. We have done a simple analysis. The 631 promises, as we conclude, we say that if President Akufo-Addo at the inception had divided these 631 promises amongst his 124 ministers, each of them will have been responsible to implement just 5. And we will not be at the 14% that we are today. With what has been done, the 14% delivery, the 83 promises delivered, what has happened therefore is that each minister has delivered 0.7 promise, less than one. The sad truth is that this has been an abysmal 4 years. Abysmal, the worst implementation of manifesto. You have the biggest manifesto, made the most loftiest of promises in the history of our country, and yet you could not rise up to the occasion. You have had the most resources. You have borrowed more than any government has ever borrowed. And that is why I remember at this point the profound words of Jesus the Christ in Luke chapter 12 verse 48, when he said, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much will be asked." They called the competent NDC team incompetent. And unknown to the people of Ghana, a disaster was what they were replacing the NDC government with. A total disaster. So, ladies and gentlemen,
government has an automatic right to be elected twice. We should not give governments a sense of the right to be elected twice unless they perform and unless they deliver on the promises they made whilst seeking our vote.
These words of President Akufo-Addo are profound and will become prophetic. We agree with him in toto. No government is guaranteed an automatic second term. If you do not deliver on your mandate, you do not deliver on your promises. And because of that, you are running away from the register, the very register, voters register that brought you to power. Thinking that if you do a new register, because you have been a disaster in government, and you suppress votes, it will, when you skew the register, it will bring you back to power. No new register will salvage the MPP. Their only solution lied in implementing their manifesto promises and being truthful to the people, being sincere. They have failed to deliver. And every government that fails to deliver, like President Akufo-Addo has reminded us, is punished at the poll. There were very high standards for the NDC apparently. These people would not be allowed to lie their way to power. We shall engage in issue-based campaign, evidence-based, fact-based, empirical, to make sure that their abysmal performance is exposed. I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I need a video.
Enam amemwa enkoyeti. Ekombe. Ya mobo Ghana. Etisikaso.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, I think our speaker deserves another round of applause. Thank you very much, Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, for that fact-based and comprehensive delivery. And this should tell everybody watching us this afternoon that even though we in the NDC don't brag like our friends in the MPP, we actually have the men and not them. And so we promise you a dispassionate and a comprehensive assessment of the MPP's 2016 manifesto promises. And I believe that you do agree with me that we have done just that. They have fulfilled only 86 out of the 631 promises they made. And that gives them a score of 14%, which is an F. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that you agree with us that the Akufo-Addo government is a sham and a scam. And you agree with our speaker that come 7th December 2020, we must show them the exit. Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, we will open the floor for questions. And so if you have a question, you raise up your hand. I'll call you, we'll bring a microphone to where you are. You can come to the front and ask your question. Our speaker, supported by our ranking members and other officials of the party, are here to answer your question. And so if you have a question, can I see your hand? Okay. So, okay, the microphone is here. Is there any question? I think that, okay, Parker Wilson always has a question. I can see his hand here. So Parker, come in front and ask your question before we draw the curtains onto this program.
Good evening. I work with Joy FM. My name is Parker Wilson. Honorable, one may argue that as you have illustrated 14% of government achievement. Now, the argument is that government is spending the resources in educating your constituents. That is the free SHS. They are paying for over 1.2 million SHS students. Isn't that enough justification for how far they have come as far as some other achievements are concerned? Thank you.
But is that not part of the 14%, Parker? I think we scored them delivered, and that is part of the 14%, right? Okay, so any other question? Friends from the media, any other question? Okay, I can see a media man here who wants to ask a question. Honorable, kindly know the question so that you answer.
Thank you very much. My name is George Johnson.
Please, your name?
George Johnson is the name from Pan African Television.
Okay, thank you.
Honorable, quick one. The supposed smuggled AIDS promises by the MPP that you mentioned. Quick one. If I would like to find out from the Honorable MP, if indeed they are really delivering or they've delivered some of those AIDS promises, don't you think it's a good account for us to actually acknowledge the MPP for doing that?
If they are delivering some,
I'm talking about the AIDS smuggled.
The smuggled promises.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
If they are doing that, thank you very much. Any other? I think we will take one last. Okay. There are two other people there, so let's take the last two questions.
My name is Richard Atakwabe from Premium TV.
From? Okay.
Please, during the address, Mr. Okujeto made mention of how you are going to make sure that the rent laws are being enforced. What measures are you going to put in place so that these rent laws are being enforced in the country? Because it takes an ordinary Ghanaian to get even a single room. You pay not more than 2,000 Ghana cedis to get even a single room. So what are you going to do so that those rent laws are being enforced in the country?
Thank you very much for that question. Let's take the final question.
Okay, so in the address, he mentioned that the free senior high school policy has not gone well, the implementation. I want to find out what the NDC is going to do when they come into office about it, especially the double track system. You always mention that it's not going well with infrastructure and all that. What is the NDC going to do about it?
Okay, I think our speaker addressed that, but I will leave that to him. And so, shall we welcome once again Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa to briefly deal with these questions.
Government to get away because they implemented free SHS. You know what, my comrades and friends, if the MPP has said in their manifesto that free SHS is so hard, it will require so much resources that if we do free SHS, all these other promises, we won't do it. We are coming to do only one thing, free SHS. Then this argument can be made. But they said that Sikano Woho, we have the money, and we will implement free SHS and also implement all the other 630 promises. So, Parker, we accounted for free SHS. It's part of the 14%. And as I told you, this government has been the luckiest. They've had, you have borrowed over 120 billion. Free SHS, you spend on the average 1.2 billion cedis for free SHS a year. And in a year, you are getting hundreds of billions from tax revenues, from oil receipts, and the loans that you are adding. Hundreds of billions. So please, it's no excuse. And the government will not be allowed to get away that we are implementing free SHS. So if you knew that free SHS, when you implement it, you can't do other things, You say that in your manifesto, and you reduce your manifesto promises. So please, that's the response to that. The 8 deceptive promises. You are saying that why are we taking on the government for those deceptive promises? Because after all, they have achieved them. We are saying that if you come to power and you achieve some things that you didn't promise, be honest, be candid with the fact. You are putting out a manifesto promises list. Stick to your manifesto promises. And then later you can say, look, in addition to our manifesto promises, these are some other things we have done out of our manifesto. Like we have done today. We did our analysis with the 631 manifesto promises, and they scored 14%. So imagine what the percentage will have been if we also acted like them and brought in all the other promises they made, both in power and out of power when they were campaigning. The percentage will have come down. So we can't approbate and reprobate. So we made sure that we stayed away from that trap. We didn't fall in that trap. So it's all about just being candid with the data, being objective and truthful. Rent laws, I did indicate that is one of the things our flag bearer has talked about. During the manifesto launch, there are sweeping reforms that I'm reliably informed that the manifesto team has made. As I told you earlier, I do not want to take the wind out of the sails of the manifesto team. These are matters way above my pay grade, and I do not want to speak to them without the instruction of the leaders of our party. So please bear with me that I cannot delve into details, except to say that you notice we captured it, that the president had, former President Mahama had indicated that he will be speaking to rent laws. Finally, the technical team working on our website has just drawn our attention to the fact that some persons have started attacking the website in cyberspace. They are hacking, they are trying to change figures and all of that. I mean, what are you scared of? No matter what you do, www.mppfieldpromises.com will go up. We will build firewalls. We will strengthen it. And we'll make sure that the website is up. And we are also going to distribute hard copies. We printed 200 copies of our presentation. Come and hack the hard copies too, So, and there will be soft versions on WhatsApp and everywhere. So please, this attempt to attack, let's rather have a debate, a campaign of issues, of ideas. I mean, you have put out 78%. We've put out 14% with the evidence. Let's engage. So please, those who are trying to hack our websites, please stop it. Thank you very much. We are done, right? Okay.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I just got information from our ranking member on the Parliamentary Committee on Finance, indicating that in the last 3.5 years, Parker Wilson, I hope you are listening, this government has borrowed in excess of 120 billion Ghana cedis. They've had in excess of 180 billion in tax revenue. That gives a total of over 330 billion Ghana cedis. But all they have spent on the much touted free SHS policy is 6 billion. And so you have a remainder of about 294 billion Ghana cedis. The question is, away. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, gradually we have come to the end of today's program. We apologize to the stations who carried this event live, but who we couldn't acknowledge. You know, we have, our standard practice is that we acknowledge all stations who carry our press briefings live. Because of the nature of today's program and because of time constraints, we couldn't do that. We promise you that we are going to do that at the next edition of our press briefing series. We thank our friends from the media who who attended this program and have had the patience to listen to us. You in the media are the fourth estate of the realm. And you know, the opposition is not the only body which has the responsibility of keeping governments on its toes and ensuring that the people are served with what they are promised. And so we are relying on you, like our speaker has said, to fact check these claims, interrogate the claims we have made here today, and join us in holding the Akufo-Addo government accountable to the mandate we gave them on 7th January 2017. Again, let me reiterate the call our speaker made, the challenge he threw to the MPP, that, you know, when we started our press conferences, there was something the MPP used to do, which was very interesting. But they are failing to do that these days, and we are getting increasingly worried. At first, by now, the MPP would have advertised a press conference to respond to our claims. It is very unfortunate that these days, we do not see the MPP making the effort to rebut so that we can have a more issue-based public discourse. And so we are challenging them to do so and to come to the table with not insults, but with the same research-based, fact-based, you know, presentation and issues we have raised here. We want them to display the same thoroughness and depth we have displayed here today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the victory of the NDC is coming back again. And we know that come 7th December 2020, by the grace of God, the good people of this country will give His Excellency John Dramani Mahama the mandate to come and continue the good work he was doing. We thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you, our media friends, at the next edition of our weekly press briefings. Thank you very much for your attention. Please, all pressmen should stay back in the auditorium. We have your packs ready. We will see you in the next 15 minutes so that you can leave. All pressmen